about that. Does the cask affect the flavor? Absolutely. Sometimes, has anybody ever had a red wine and you taste it and you say, wow, that tastes kind of woody or oaky. Where is it getting that flavor? It's probably getting it from the cask because it leaches some of that flavoring from the wood. And again, that's just another part of red wine that makes it complex. Nowadays, it's quicker and cheaper to put it in stainless steel. And the wineries found out something really cool. They made a lot of money on this. You know what they did with their old casks? Sold them for what? Sold them.
I was going to say, like, maybe chop them up and put, like, the wood in the actual thing as it is.
Sold them for furniture. Because just as the wine takes its flavoring from the oak cask is saturated with wine. And so, bless you, you walk in your house now and it smells like wine. Well, I mean, that smell goes on for years. And, you know, of all the smells to have in your house, I guess red wine is not a bad alternative, right? They sold this wood for a fortune because people want this smell in their house. Okay. So now we age it. We sometimes for 1 year, sometimes for 3 years, sometimes for 5 years. We're allowing it to mature. Now, while we're doing this, what is happening is that oxygen is interacting with the mix. And it's allowing a further chemical process to take place. It's not creating more alcohol, but it's allowing a lot of the flavors to kind of mix with the oxygen, and it enhances it. Now, after a couple of years in the cask, you think it's ready to go? No. Now you're going to bottle it, okay? And what you do is this is the time that you filter out the leaves, the stems, the skin, right? You filter it when it's coming out of the cask. It's called fining or clarifying, and you put the wine into bottles now, okay? When it was in the cask, it was interacting with the air. It was still interacting with the skins and the leaves. So it was maturing, let's say, at 55 miles an hour. Now we put it into a bottle, and it matures at, 1 mile an hour. Has anybody seen how they stack wine bottles after they filled them up? Anybody been on a tour? They do it like this, and again, I'm not an artist. It's on an angle, just like this. First thing is they put a cork in it. Okay? Now, some red wines now don't have cork, they use plastic corks. That is a sign of an inferior wine. Okay? Why do we use corks? Very good. To let air in, but only a little bit of air. Only a little bit, okay? Again, very little air gets to the cork. And again, you're allowing it to mature further. Does anybody know what happens to wine if you let too much air get into it for a long time?
It tastes nasty.
It tastes nasty. What does it taste like?
When it happened to my dad's bottle, it just kind of tasted weirdly flat and like dirty.
Vinegar.
Vinegar. That's how you make vinegar. Vinegar is just spoiled wine. That's what vinegar is. Okay? And nowadays, I mean, anybody really into vinegar nowadays? My wife is. There's this vinegar shop down in Florida that we have to go to like every 3 months because, again, they do flavors and all that, and she loves it on her salad. But vinegar is just spoiled wine. But, it's funny, these people pay, all this money for like a 300-year-old bottle of wine. They're probably buying the world's most expensive vinegar. Because if it's not sealed correctly, Too much air gets in and turns to vinegar. Now, again, why are we stored on an angle? Well, several reasons. The first one is if you look at it, this is the top of the wine. What's it doing to the cork?
It's like saturating the bottom of it.
It's saturate. Why? Keep the seal. The cork dries out, it gets smaller. If it gets smaller, what happens up top here?
It gets tighter.
Too much air. Air to vinegar. Okay? So that's one of the reasons you have it on an angle, exactly like that. Okay? The other reason is, remember I told you we took out all the skins and the stems and the leaves? We filtered it, but there's these things, remember we said tannins? There are tannins in the skin that did not get filtered out. And they're typically microscopic particles floating in the wine. Okay? So what happens if we let it sit on the rack for a couple years?
Will it settle in the bottom?
Yes, absolutely. Gravity does its job. It will take these microscopic particles and it will draw them to the bottom. And if you have it at the right angle, actually what will happen is all this tannin will not only go down, but it'll go to the reverse apex of the bottle and it will settle there and it will collect there. Does anybody know what this is called? You guys are learning a lot today, right? Getting your money's worth? Everyone's like ready to go drink some wine, right? This is called the dreg. Ever heard the term dregs of society? That's where it comes from. The dreg is nasty, nasty stuff. If you were to take it out and put it on your tongue, it would taste like pure evil. It is bitterness times 1,000. It's the worst stuff in the world. Okay? But it's part of what gives red wine its unique bitter flavor. It takes a little bit from those microscopic particles, but sends most of it down here. Okay? So after years, your dreg actually settles right here. And it looks like snot, to be honest with you. If you dry it out, it becomes kind of a dry powder. I mean, if you really have someone you want to get even with, get some of this stuff, dry it out, put it like on their food or whatever, and like throw up like right away. Okay? So now what do? We've got a red wine, let's say it's 20 years, it's at its maturity, we've got the alcohol content we want, we've got the taste we want. So we're ready to drink our bottle of wine. Do we just pick it up like this? Oh, ready to go. No. To be very careful because we've taken years to take the dreg out of it. We don't want it to go back into the solution or get mixed up in it. So we're going to take that bottle of wine and we're going to lift it very gently. And we'll pretend this is the dreg. We're going to lift it very gently and we're going to walk over and we're going to clarify it further. We're going to decanter it. Does anybody know what a decanter is? If you ever, go to the orange juice bar in the morning and the orange juice is in this funny looking container that's got the wide top. That's actually designed for wine, decantering wine. So we're going to take it very carefully. We don't want to mix this stuff up. And we're going to walk over to our decantering station. And we'll have it set up here with the decanter. And then we'll open up the wine very, very carefully, not to mix it up. We don't want to get this stuff in the wine. Open it up, pull the cork out, and then typically what we'll do is get a very bright light or a candle, and we'll start to pour very carefully into the decanter. Right? This actually works out really well. Thanks for bringing this. And so you can see the juice start to go this way, right? And this starts to creep up. When it creeps up to about here, we back off and let it come down again. And we keep doing that all the way through. Now, some wine experts will leave about a little bit more, a little less of this in with the dreg and say, I'm done. But the true experts will take cheesecloth very thick, folded over and over and over. And then they'll pour that last bit, including the dreg, onto the cheesecloth. The cheesecloth will grab the dreg, and then you'll have your very, very, very fine bottle of red wine there that it's at its peak and ready to go. So when you see in the movies, someone taking a 300-year-old bottle of wine and pour it, they're doing it wrong, because they're probably going to get some dreg into someone's wine and ruin it for them. Okay? Isn't that interesting? Okay. That's why, and again, I love my wife, and I love the fact she loves white wines, but it's like soda pop. Red wine are like a 7-course feast. Very, very complex. And again, and nothing against young people, but your taste buds, even when you're like a baby, your tastes are very fine. And so you want more bland stuff, because your taste buds can pick up on it. When you get older, your taste buds kind of wear out, and that's why you want really nasty stuff like raw, salmon and red wines and things that have really, really sharp, distinct taste to them. Okay. Isn't that cool? So, what are the rules about drinking red and white wine? White meat goes with what? White wine. Red meat goes with? Red wine. All right? Fish, white or red?
White.
White. Pork, red. Sometimes white, sometimes red. Again, we're going back to these guys and gals called wine snobs, right? They almost drove the wine business into despair. And typically, and what would happen in the 70s was they started coming up with all these rules with you can drink this with this and this with that. And just like anything else, if you're not really into wine and follow the rules, what happens? You become intimidated. And you go to lunch, you go out on a date with someone and you think, man, I want to order wine, but